On my birthday, I came home to find every door locked. My husband Marcus changed all the codes. My son Tyler stood outside with a security guard, handing me papers while my daughter Emma filmed everything on her phone. They told me the bakery, our home, the savings, everything now belonged to them. Emma called me useless while they all smiled. I took the papers, read them carefully, and signed my name. Then I walked to my old car and drove away. Within 10 days, my phone showed 53 missed calls. What goes around had come back faster than they expected. Look at her face. She really believes we're celebrating her tomorrow. Emma's giggle came through the air vent from Marcus's study right below our bedroom. I put my ear against the cold metal grate. Dad, did the lawyers say the lockout papers are okay? Tyler's voice now. Everything's handled, Marcus answered. The bakery transfer, the house papers, the divorce documents. By tomorrow evening, your mother won't have anything except that rusty Toyota she keeps fixing. I stayed completely still on our bedroom carpet, my knees hurting as my family talked about removing me from their lives. Before we keep going, I want to say thank you for watching. If you think family meanness should have results, please think about subscribing. It costs nothing and helps others find these real stories. Now, let me tell you what I learned. My hand grabbed our bed's wooden edge, holding so tight my fingers hurt. Through the vent, I heard chairs moving on Marcus's study floor, papers making noise. Tyler's voice came up again, cold and without feeling, the way he probably talked at his job. The paperwork is perfect. I made it, so she can't say we forced her. If she signs thinking it's something else, we're safe. And is Victoria ready to move in this weekend? Emma asked. Her voice sounded excited in a way that made my stomach feel bad. Victoria Chin. That name had been going around our friend group for months, a woman whose husband died and left her his restaurant business. Victoria knows the schedule, Marcus said. His voice was warm in a way I hadn't heard him talk to me in a long time. She already put some of her stuff in the storage place downtown. Once Abigail leaves, we can start new. I moved backward from the vent, crawling silently on the thick carpet I picked because it was soft and quiet. Funny that my choice now let me hear them planning to get rid of me. Standing on shaky legs, I walked to our bedroom window and looked at the backyard where we raised our kids. The swing set was gone for years, replaced by Marcus's shed, but I could still see where it used to be in the worn grass that never grew back right. The talking below kept going, but I heard enough. My family had been planning this for months, while I kept everything running smoothly. This morning alone, I already checked 5 bakery orders, made sure next week's flour delivery was right, and fixed the money books that Tyler said he was watching. I walked to our closet and pulled down the small bag from the top shelf, the one I used for short trips. My hands moved by themselves, folding clothes, picking things that were mine before I married Marcus. The silver bracelet my mom gave me when I finished high school, the watch I bought with my first paycheck, the photo book from college before Marcus was in my life. Downstairs, I heard the study door open. Footsteps went different ways through the house. Marcus's heavy steps moved toward the kitchen. Tyler's lighter steps went to the front door, probably leaving for his apartment downtown, the one I helped pay for when his credit wasn't good enough. Emma's high heels clicked toward the garage where her red car sat, the car we gave her for finishing her college degree. I put the bag back in the closet and went downstairs, acting normal. Marcus stood at the kitchen counter pouring coffee into his favorite cup, the one with the small crack that Tyler gave him years ago. He looked up when I came in, and for a second, I saw something flash in his eyes. Guilt, excitement. It was gone too fast to know. Morning plans? I asked, getting my own cup from the cabinet. Just some work in the study. He didn't look at me. Tomorrow's a big day. Your birthday. The words sat between us like something dangerous on the table. 60 years old. I added milk to my coffee, watching it spin and disappear. I guess that's worth celebrating. We planned something special. His smile didn't reach his eyes. That smile hadn't reached his eyes in months, I realized. When did I stop noticing? The morning went like usual, but everything felt different now. I drove to our bakery warehouse, where Diego greeted me with his usual worried face about missing things. 3 boxes of special chocolate had disappeared from our records. 2 shipments of vanilla had gone somewhere else without anyone saying, okay. The security cameras had mysteriously stopped working on the exact nights these changes happened. Mrs. B, Diego said, making his voice quiet. Something's not right here. These aren't mistakes or computer problems. I patted his shoulder, this loyal man who worked for us since we started. I know, Diego. Don't worry. Just write down everything carefully. He nodded, confusion on his face. He didn't understand why I wasn't more upset. How could I explain that stolen chocolate was the smallest problem when my whole life was being taken apart by the people I trusted most? The rest of the day felt like a dream. I went to meetings, signed orders for supplies, and fixed problems like everything was normal. But underneath, my mind was racing, planning, getting ready. Every time I saw Tyler, it felt like acting. He stopped by the bakery to talk about the computer problems, his face looking concerned while knowing he caused it all. Emma called to check about family dinner on Sunday, her voice happy and fake. We'll celebrate your birthday properly then, Mom. Just family like you like it. I agreed, matching her tone. Both of us pretending in this big lie. That evening, I stood in the kitchen making dinner, while Marcus worked in his study below. Through the vent, I could hear him on the phone, probably with Victoria, his voice low and close. Tomorrow, they planned to give me papers at what I was supposed to think was my birthday party. Tomorrow, they would watch me sign away everything I spent 32 years building. But tonight, I stood in my kitchen cooking Marcus's favorite food one last time, my movements calm and exact. They thought I didn't know, thought I was happy in my routine, blind to their plans. Let them think that. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, surprises they never expected. My phone sat on the counter with 3 numbers already saved, waiting for tomorrow's aftermath. Linda Hayes, money detective. Peter Crawford, business lawyer. Detective Sarah Kim, who still had questions about my business partner's death 9 years ago. I smiled as I put dinner on plates, a real smile for the first time all day. They thought tomorrow was their carefully planned ending. They had no idea it was actually just the beginning. Morning came with Marcus standing by my bed, holding a cup of hot coffee and wearing a look I hadn't seen since Tyler's high school graduation. His hand shook a little as he put the cup on my nightstand, the liquid almost spilling over the edge. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Wear your yellow dress today, the one from our dinner last year. His voice sounded odd and formal, like reading words he memorized badly. We have something special planned for you downstairs. The yellow dress hung in our closet, the tag still on it. I bought it for our anniversary dinner, but we never went. Marcus said there was a bakery emergency that night, though I later found a receipt from a fancy restaurant in his coat pocket. Table for 2. I put on the dress now, its soft fabric cool on my skin, and noticed how Marcus watched me from the doorway, his foot tapping on the wood floor in a nervous pattern I knew from 32 years of marriage. Walking down our stairs felt different this morning. The family photos on the wall seemed to watch me come down with knowing eyes. At the bottom, the living room furniture had been moved. Our couch and chairs pushed to the walls, making an open space in the middle where our wooden coffee table sat like an altar. The morning sun through the windows lit up a thick brown folder, placed exactly in the center. Tyler stood by the front door, his body blocking it, dressed in his work suit even though it was Saturday. His phone was out, held like he was recording. Emma stood near the hallway to the garage, her own phone raised, a small smile on her lips. They made a triangle with Marcus at the point, and I stood in the center, surrounded. Please sit down, Abigail. Marcus pointed to the chair they'd put facing the table. Not my usual spot where I sat for thousands of morning coffees, but a kitchen chair brought in just for this moment. The wood felt cold through the yellow dress. Tyler cleared his throat and stepped forward, his work voice replacing any sound of the son who used to call me for help during college. "Mom, we need to talk about some changes to the family setup and business arrangements. What we're showing you today is the result of careful thinking and legal advice." The folder opened under Marcus's fingers, showing papers marked with yellow tabs pointing to signature lines. So many tabs. A lifetime of tabs. Tyler kept talking, his words flowing with practiced exactness, while I watched Marcus's hand shake as he spread the papers across the table surface. The first paper is a marriage-ending form. The terms are generous considering everything. Tyler's eyes never met mine, looking instead at a point above my head. "You'll get your personal things and the Toyota. The second set moves your part of the bakery business to Dad, recognizing his role as main operator. The third gives up claim to this house, saying that the house payments and improvements were paid mostly through Dad's work." Each word hit with planned impact. But it was Marcus who said the personal hurt. "We've grown apart, Abigail. You know we have. This is best for everyone. A chance for new chapters." His memorized speech stopped as he pointed vaguely at the papers. Victoria Chen has been helping us handle this change. She understands business, understands what we need moving forward." Emma finally spoke, her young voice carrying a meanness that must have been practiced to sound so perfect. "We already moved your stuff to the garage, Mom. The stuff that's actually yours anyway. Most of it was Dad's money that bought everything else." She lowered her phone a little to look right at me. "It's all sorted, labeled, ready for you to take." The quiet that followed felt alive, breathing in the space between us. Through the front window, I saw movement. Mrs. Anderson from across the street stood in her garden, pretending to water plants that didn't need water. Mr. Garcia, next door, chose this moment to check his mailbox for the third time this morning. They knew. The whole neighborhood had been told or warned or invited to watch my embarrassment. "You're useless, Mom." Emma's words cut through the silence like a knife. "Did you really think we needed you anymore? Dad built this bakery. Tyler has the legal knowledge. I have my own life, my own job. What exactly do you do except go through the motions every day like some kind of machine?" Tyler's laugh came quick and sharp, a sound I'd never heard from him before. Marcus's laugh followed, nervous and high, the laugh of a man who crossed a line and couldn't find his way back. The sound bounced off the walls of the home I spent 3 decades creating, keeping up, and filling with what I thought was love. Movement from the kitchen caught my eye. Daniel Ross stepped into view, Tyler's college friend who'd eaten dinner at this table dozens of times. He held his briefcase like a shield, his face professionally blank. "I'm here as a witness," he announced without needing to verify that all signatures are given freely and without force. The pen appeared in Marcus's hand, expensive and heavy, the fountain pen I gave him when he landed our first big bakery contract. He held it toward me with the same hand that held mine through childbirth pain, through my mother's funeral, through celebrations and failures and ordinary Tuesday mornings that now felt like treasures I never properly valued. I took the pen. Its weight felt important, final. The room held its breath as I pulled the first paper toward me. Tyler shifted his position slightly, making sure his phone captured everything. Emma zoomed in with hers. Marcus's breathing got loud in the silence. My signature flowed across the first yellow tab with practiced ease. Then the second, third, each name written with the careful handwriting my mother made me perfect back when signatures meant promises and promises meant something. I signed away the house where my children took their first steps. I signed away the bakery I helped build from a single oven and a dream. I signed away 32 years of marriage with the same steady hand that once signed our wedding papers. The final signature complete, I set down the pen with a soft click on the wooden surface. Looking up, I met each of their eyes one by one. Tyler's held victory, mixed with something else, uncertainty. Emma's phone lowered slightly as she processed my calm. Marcus stepped backward like I might explode, might scream, might become the scene they apparently prepared for. Instead, I smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached my eyes and changed my face into something they hadn't seen in years. Peace. It scared them more than any scream could have. "Thank you," I said softly, standing from the chair with careful grace. This makes everything so much simpler. My steady calm lasted exactly until I closed the Toyota's door behind me. The old car's engine started on the third try, just like it had for the past 15 years, and I drove away from my former life with nothing but 2 bags and a silence, so complete it felt like drowning. The extended stay motel sat 12 miles from the house, far enough that no one from our friend circle would accidentally see my car in the parking lot. The desk worker barely looked up as I counted out cash for a week's stay. Room 237 smelled like strong cleaner and broken dreams, but it had a door that locked and a bed that wasn't shared with a man who'd been planning my removal for 6 months. I dropped the bags by the door and pulled out my phone, switching it to airplane mode before taking out the SIM card completely. They'd expect me to call someone, anyone, to cry and beg for explanations. Instead, I would disappear into the silence they created. But first, I needed information. During the drive, I mentally photographed every paper I signed, and now I spread my phone across the bed, zooming in on the images I managed to capture while pretending to read. Tyler's legal words were exact, but arrogant. He buried clauses in small sections, assuming I'd sign without reading, just like I apparently did everything else without thinking. One clause particularly stood out, a non-compete agreement preventing me from working in bakeries within a 500-mile circle, unenforceable according to state law. But they didn't know I knew that. My notebook filled quickly with columns of information, things they knew about versus ones they didn't. The separate business account I opened 3 years ago when I started noticing problems, now holding $40,000 in real consulting payments from side projects Marcus said were too small to bother with. The storage space across town where I kept my mother's furniture, still in my maiden name. The network of suppliers who worked with me directly, bypassing the official bakery channels. At exactly midnight, I walked to the motel's business room and used their phone to make the first call. Linda Hayes answered on the second ring, her voice awake despite the hour. We were roommates at State College, both studying business when women were still oddities in those classrooms. She became a forensic accountant, specializing in divorce cases, finding hidden money with the dedication of a detective. "Abigail, this number isn't yours." Her voice sharpened with concern. "I need your help, Linda. Confidentially. Can we meet tomorrow? Where and when?" No questions about why I was calling from an unknown number at midnight. No sounds of surprise. Linda had handled enough ugly divorces to recognize the sound of a woman in crisis. The second call required more careful handling. Peter Crawford had built his law practice on business fights, but 4 years ago, I helped his daughter Jessica escape a bad marriage by hiding her in our guest room for 3 weeks, while Peter arranged protection orders. He tried to pay me, tried to thank me in ways that mattered to men like him. But I simply told him that someday I might need a favor. "Peter, it's Abigail Brennan. I'm calling in that favor." His pause lasted 3 seconds. "I'll clear my morning schedule. My private office entrance, 7 sharp." The third call made my hands shake slightly. Detective Sarah Kim had looked into my business partner Robert Chen's death 9 years ago. Heart attack at 52, the medical examiner ruled, though Robert had just passed a complete physical the month before. His widow Victoria had inherited his shares in our biggest competitor, then sold them 6 months later for triple their value when the company mysteriously got 3 government contracts Robert had been chasing. "Detective Kim, this is Abigail Brennan. I have information about Robert Chin that might interest you. The case has been cold for 9 years, Mrs. Brennan. It won't be cold after you hear what I learned about Victoria Chen's previous husband, the one who died 5 years before Robert." The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if she hung up. "Then, can you come to the station tomorrow afternoon? Bring everything you have." By dawn, my phone had 17 missed calls despite being powered off. The motel's business computer showed 53 emails in the new account I created. Several were from Diego, my warehouse manager, each one more urgent than the last. I called him from the motel phone, knowing he'd be at the warehouse by 5:30, just like he had been every morning for 12 years. Mrs. B, thank God. Everything's going crazy here. Mr. B showed up at 4 this morning with that Chun woman, had me change all the computer passwords, said you were taking a medical break. His voice dropped. She was measuring the offices, talking about changes. Diego, I need you to do exactly what they tell you, but I also need you to write down everything. Every change, every visitor, every unusual order or cancellation. Can you do that without being obvious? You gave me a chance when nobody else would, Mrs. B. I don't forget that. The next 2 hours brought a flood of information. 3 major clients called Diego directly, confused about emails from Tyler announcing restructuring and price increases. 2 suppliers reported that payment terms had been changed from 30 days to 90 without asking. The Martinez bakery foreman mentioned that cheaper ingredients had been delivered that morning despite the order clearly saying premium quality. But the most valuable information came from someone unexpected. Rosa Santos, who ran the coffee shop where Marcus met clients, called the motel's main line asking for me specifically. Someone told her I might be staying there. Honey, I don't know what's happening in your world, but that husband of yours has been meeting with Victoria Chin every Tuesday and Thursday morning for the past 18 months. Always the corner booth. Always thought they were being sneaky. She paused. My cousin Maria works at the courthouse. Victoria's been there 3 times in the past month filing paperwork. And here's the interesting part. She filed the exact same types of papers before her second husband died. Maria remembers because it seemed strange at the time, getting everything in order months before he had his sudden heart attack. The pieces formed a pattern, so clear I wondered how I missed it. Marcus hadn't fallen for a younger woman or gotten bored with our marriage. He'd been selected, groomed, and was now being positioned for something far worse than divorce. Victoria Chin didn't just steal businesses. She eliminated their owners after getting control. I made one final call that morning, this time to Jennifer Lee, who ran the private investigation company Peter recommended for business matters. Her rate was expensive but worthwhile, especially when I mentioned Victoria Chen's name. That woman's got a reputation, Jennifer said carefully. I'll need money up front, but I can have early background by tomorrow. Fair warning, though, if half of what I've heard is true, you're not dealing with a simple divorce situation. You're dealing with someone who plays for keeps, permanently. The motel room had changed from a hiding place into a command center. Papers spread across the bed, laptop open to business accounts they didn't know existed, phone numbers for allies who would help me handle the disaster my family had started. They thought they'd won, thought I'd crumble into nothing while they celebrated their freedom. They had no idea what they'd actually done. They'd freed me too. Linda Hayes arrived at the motel room at 7 the next morning, carrying 2 laptops and a box of files that made the desk groan when she set them down. Her face shifted from professional concern to real alarm when she saw the papers I'd photographed spread across the bed, each one marked with sticky notes detailing the hidden clauses and meanings. 3 years, she said after 90 minutes of looking through everything, her fingers flying across calculator keys. They've been stealing from the bakery for 3 years. Abigail, the patterns are clear once you know what to look for. She pulled up spreadsheets on her laptop, the numbers forming a story of organized theft. Money sent through fake vendor payments. Real expenses made bigger by 30% with the extra sent to accounts in faraway islands. Baking supplies bought but never delivered, their costs written off as losses. The total made my stomach turn. $1.2 million carefully stolen while I'd been focused on daily work. Tyler's digital signature appears on every fake document, Linda continued, highlighting specific transactions. He used his law firm's trust to approve transfers that would never pass a real check. And here, look at this. She pointed to a series of equipment sales from 6 months ago. Your daughter sold 3 ovens and a mixer through a middleman. The equipment went for half its real value, and the buyer was a fake company that traced back to an art gallery. Her gallery. The gallery Emma had opened last year, the one we celebrated with champagne and proud parent photos. Every opening, every art show, paid for by stolen equipment from the bakery her grandfather started with his bare hands and a single oven. Linda's most damning discovery came from matching dates. Victoria Chen's name appears on signature cards for your business accounts 2 weeks before your birthday, before the divorce papers were filed. They were so confident you'd sign that they already started the transfer process. My phone buzzed with a text from Diego. Need to talk in person. Urgent. I met him at a diner 5 miles from the warehouse, picking a booth where I could watch the door. Diego arrived looking tired, sliding into the seat across from me with movements that suggested he'd been looking over his shoulder. Mrs. B. I stayed late last night, pretending to count inventory. Around 9, your husband showed up with that Chin woman. They didn't know I was in the upper storage area. He pulled out his phone, swiping to a voice recording app. I recorded this. The audio was muffled, but clear enough. Marcus's voice. Once the divorce is done, we can start selling things more aggressively. Then Victoria, her tone cold and businesslike. The timeline is critical. We need her completely removed from any decision-making position. If she tries to interfere, we'll handle it. I've handled obstacles before. There's more, Diego whispered. I checked the security system this morning. Someone deleted footage from 3 specific nights over the past month, but they didn't know about the backup drive I installed in the ceiling. I have everything. The footage he'd saved on a thumb drive showed Marcus and Victoria photographing inventory lists, client contracts, and supplier agreements. In one frame, Victoria was on her phone while pointing at our client database on the computer screen. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m., 3 weeks before my birthday. They've been planning to destroy the bakery and sell it piece by piece, Diego said. I heard her mention buyers from Seattle who take the contracts, but not the employees. Everyone would be fired. Detective Kim's call came as I was driving back to the motel. Can you meet me at the station now? What I found, we need to discuss it immediately. Her office hadn't changed in 9 years, still messy with case files and coffee cups that looked like science experiments. But her face was different, sharper, more focused than when she'd looked into Robert's death. Victoria Chen's first husband died of a heart attack at 48. Her second, Robert, at 52. Both were cremated within 48 hours, which is unusual but not illegal. But here's what we missed the first time. She spread photos across her desk. Both men increased their life insurance policies 6 months before their deaths. Both named Victoria as who gets the money, and both had the same symptoms in their final weeks. Tiredness, trouble breathing, chest pain, classic signs of digitalis poisoning, which looks like heart attack symptoms. She pulled up another paper on her computer. Your husband increased his life insurance policy last month. $2 million. Victoria Chen is listed as secondary person to get the money after you. But once the divorce is done, she becomes primary. I finished. My text specialist recovered deleted text messages from a phone Victoria thought she destroyed. She and your husband discussed permanent solutions and timeline adjustments regarding someone they call the obstacle. Given the context, we believe that's you. The room felt smaller suddenly, the meanings crushing. This wasn't just about money or business. Victoria had graduated from financial murder to the actual kind, and Marcus was either helping or next on her list. My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. It was Kevin Martinez, whose housing project represented 40% of our bakery's current contracts. Abigail, I'm calling you directly because something's not right. Tyler missed our meeting yesterday, then sent terrible ingredients to my site that weren't even close to what we ordered. My supervisor had to refuse delivery. The bad flour could have caused people to get sick. His voice got harder. I also heard you're no longer with the bakery. Is that true? It's complicated, Kevin. Then uncomplicate it. I hired your bakery because of your reputation for quality. If you're starting something new, I want in. The contract can be moved if the terms are met. 2 more clients called within the hour with similar worries. Tyler's mistakes were destroying relationships I had spent 20 years building. Emma's ingredient substitutions had caused someone to have an allergic reaction at an event, thankfully with no hospital visit, but the liability issues were piling up. By evening, I had 3 file boxes of evidence: financial fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, business sabotage, and enough paperwork to destroy the lives of everyone who'd laughed at my embarrassment just 48 hours ago. Linda had traced the offshore accounts. Kim had built a case that would trigger federal investigation. Diego had saved footage that would prove planning. Jennifer Lee's early report on Victoria included 2 other suspicious deaths in different states. The woman who walked out of her house with nothing but memories had changed into something else entirely. They thought they were getting rid of a used-up wife and mother. Instead, they created their own worst nightmare, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The file boxes sat in my motel room like loaded weapons waiting to be fired, but I forced myself to wait. Timing would determine whether my evidence destroyed them or merely wounded them enough to fight back. Each morning brought new reports from Diego that confirmed what I already knew. Without me, the bakery was eating itself alive. The Garcia oven broke down again today, Diego told me during our Tuesday morning call. Tyler refused to authorize the repair costs. Said we'll just use the backup. He doesn't know we sold the backup oven 6 months ago. Emma handled that sale herself. The baker had to leave the Rodriguez site. Through the motel window, I watched rain streak the glass while Diego detailed the waterfall of failures. The automated billing system had crashed because Tyler forgot to renew the software license. 3 subcontractors had left sites after payments were delayed past 90 days. The liability insurance was set to end in a week because Emma had been using the premium payments to cover her gallery's rent. I wrote everything down in a leather journal, each failure carefully recorded with dates, times, and results. The careful note-taking gave me something to focus on besides the hole in my chest where my family used to live. 32 years of marriage reduced to evidence items. 2 children I raised became partners in my removal. The knock on my door at 3 that afternoon was soft but firm. Through the peephole, I saw Rebecca Thompson, my mentor from 20 years ago when I first entered the bakery business. She stood in the hallway wearing a rain-soaked coat and a look of determined concern. Abigail opened the door. I know you're in there, and we need to talk. Rebecca entered my room without judgment, taking in the evidence boxes and wall of papers with the practiced eye of someone who'd built an empire from worse circumstances. She'd started Thompson Bakeries with a single oven after her own divorce, turning it into the largest company in 3 states. Words fast in our industry, she said, settling into the uncomfortable motel chair like it was a throne. Tyler Brennan called me yesterday trying to steal my contracts. The boy actually thought throwing around his father's name would mean something. I told him I only work with professionals who know the difference between flour and failure. Despite everything, I almost smiled at that. I'm here with an offer, Abigail. Not charity, business. I need someone who understands quality control, client relationships, and project management. Someone who can take over our commercial division while I focus on government contracts. She pulled a folder from her briefcase, full partnership track, corner office in the Meridian building. And here's the interesting part. It overlooks your old headquarters. You can watch them fail while you rebuild. The salary she quoted was double what I'd ever drawn from my own bakery. The benefits included things I'd never allowed myself. Car allowance, expense account, profit sharing that actually meant something. But it was the project list that made my breath catch. Every client who'd called me about Tyler's mistakes, was already asking about moving their contracts to Thompson Bakeries. When would you need an answer? Take your time, a week, maybe two. Though I should mention the Martinez project is specifically requesting your involvement. Apparently there was an incident with bad ingredients that nearly made people sick. After Rebecca left, I needed groceries and basic supplies. The motel's tiny store prices were sky high, and I'd been living on vending machine coffee for too long. The supermarket on Riverside Drive was far enough from our usual places that I felt safe from unexpected meetings. I was comparing pasta prices when a hand grabbed my upper arm. Marcus stood there, his face tired, his usually perfect hair messy. The confident man who orchestrated my removal looked desperate, smaller somehow. Abigail, we need to talk. You don't understand what's happening. Victoria, she's not what I thought. Movement outside caught my eye. Victoria Chin sat in her silver car, engine running, watching us through the store's glass front. The man in her passenger seat was unfamiliar, thick-necked and alert, his eyes tracking our interaction with professional interest. Let go of my arm, Marcus. My voice carried enough volume that nearby shoppers turned to look. Please, just 5 minutes. You're in danger. We're both in danger. She's done this before. I pulled free and walked quickly toward the coffee shop next door, pulling out my phone as I moved. The coffee shop was crowded, full of witnesses, and had a back exit through the kitchen if needed. Detective Kim answered immediately. Victoria Chin is at Riverside Market with an unknown male, possibly armed. Marcus just approached me. Seems panicked. Stay in public spaces. I'm sending a car now. Through the coffee shop window, I watched Marcus exit the store and approach Victoria's car. She rolled down the window, and even from distance, I could see her face shift from charming to mean. Marcus stepped back, his hands raised defensively. The unknown man got out of the car, moving toward Marcus with clear intimidation. Then police sirens wailed in the distance, and both Victoria and her companion quickly returned to the silver car and drove away. Kim called back an hour later. We missed them, but we ran the plates on her car. She was at the university library this morning looking at medical journals, specifically articles about plant-based poisons that look like heart problems. She's speeding up. That night, I sat surrounded by 12 manila envelopes, each one labeled with a different destination. The IRS would get papers about tax fraud. The state attorney general would get evidence of stealing. The bakery board would learn about safety violations and bad ingredients. Victoria Chen's insurance companies would discover interesting patterns in her beneficiary history. But the masterpiece was the package for Channel 7's investigative reporter Dana Chin, who'd been looking for a story about business corruption. I included enough evidence to start an investigation, but held back the most damaging revelations. Those would come later, timed perfectly with Marcus's attempt to file mental incompetency claims against me. Each package contained different pieces of the puzzle, making sure multiple investigations would start at once. No single agency would have the complete picture, but together they would create an inescapable net. Digital copies were uploaded to cloud storage accounts under different names. Physical copies were secured in a safety deposit box at a bank where nobody knew me. The 12th envelope was different. It contained a single photograph, Victoria and Marcus at the warehouse at 2:47 a.m., and a note. I know everything. Your move. That envelope would be hand-delivered to Victoria Chin tomorrow afternoon, right after the others were mailed. Let her wonder how much I knew. Let her panic about which agencies were already investigating. Let her make the kind of mistakes that desperate people always make when they realize their perfect plans are falling apart. The rain had stopped, leaving the parking lot shining under street lights. Somewhere across town, my family was probably sleeping peacefully in beds I'd chosen, in rooms I'd decorated, confident in their victory. Dawn on day 12 arrived with me, standing at a post office counter, watching the clerk process 11 certified mail packages. Each envelope disappeared into the system with a tracking number that I carefully wrote down. The 12th package, Victoria's personal warning, would be delivered by courier at exactly 2 p.m., giving the official investigations a 6-hour head start. By the time I arrived at Rebecca Thompson's office for my first unofficial day of work, the machinery of justice had already begun moving forward. Rebecca had given me temporary workspace on the executive floor, a glass-walled office that overlooked the city's bakery district. From my window, I could see the building that housed Brennan Bakery, the company I had helped build from nothing. At 9:47 a.m., 3 unmarked government cars pulled into the parking lot of my former headquarters. Federal agents emerged with boxes and warrant folders, their movements efficient and practiced. Through Rebecca's high-powered telescope, which she kept for market research, I watched employees gathering at windows, their confusion visible even from this distance. My phone, silent for nearly 2 weeks, began its symphony at 10:15 a.m. The first call came from Marcus. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Abigail, something's happening. The IRS just froze all our accounts. They're saying something about fake tax filings. This has to be a mistake. Call me immediately. 5 minutes later, another voicemail. The State Attorney General's office is here with a warrant. They're taking computers. Abigail, whatever you think happened, this isn't the way. Please. Tyler's first message arrived at 10:32 a.m. Mother, I don't know what you've done, but you're destroying everything grandfather built. We can resolve this privately. As your attorney, as your son, I'm advising you to contact me immediately. By noon, the voicemails had changed. Marcus's voice had moved from confusion to anger to something like panic. They found the offshore accounts. How did you know about the offshore accounts? Victoria says you must have been spying on us illegally. We'll fight this, Abigail. You won't win. Tyler's legal threats had melted into desperate negotiations. The bakery board is threatening to take away our license. 3 projects just canceled their contracts. Mom, please, let's talk about this rationally. We can work something out. But it was Emma's message that carried the most striking change. Her voice, usually so confident and dismissive, cracked with real fear. Mom, my gallery's been seized. They say it was bought with stolen money. I don't understand what's happening. The apartment was in the bakery's name. My cards don't work. Mom, I don't know how to. I've never had to. Please call me. 42 calls in total by 3 p.m. I wrote down each one, saving the voicemails to multiple devices. Evidence of their panic would be useful if they tried to claim ignorance later. The courier confirmed Victoria's package delivery at 2:03 p.m. By 2:47 p.m., Jennifer Lee's investigators sent me photos that exceeded my wildest expectations. Victoria stood on her penthouse balcony, throwing what appeared to be Marcus's clothes into the afternoon air. Expensive suits floated down like surrender flags while she screamed loud enough for neighboring buildings to hear. She found the photos in the package, Jennifer explained over the phone. Pictures of Marcus with 2 different women at hotel bars over the past year. He's been playing her while she was playing him. She's destroying everything he left at her place. The investigators' video footage showed Marcus arriving at the building, looking up at the clothing rain, then backing away as Victoria appeared to throw a laptop that exploded on the sidewalk near his feet. The security guard blocked his entry, while Victoria could be heard shrieking about being made a fool. There's more, Jennifer continued. She came down to the lobby with scissors, threatening to cut up his car seats. Building security had to hold her back. Marcus fled to a motel off Highway 9, the same one where you're staying, actually. He's 3 doors down from your room. The irony was almost poetic. The man who had orchestrated my exile was now living in the same cheap motel, probably eating from the same vending machines, definitely experiencing the same crushing realization that everything he thought he controlled had slipped away. Rebecca and I spent the afternoon visiting clients who had expressed concerns about Brennan Bakery's stability. The Martinez meeting was particularly satisfying. Kevin Martinez himself greeted us in his office, where building plans for his development covered every surface. Abigail, I'm glad you're here. I received a call from Tyler Brennan this morning threatening legal action if I break our contract. 20 minutes later, the news broke about federal investigations into the bakery. I want Thompson Bakeries to take over immediately, with you personally overseeing the project. We visited 6 clients that day. Every one of them signed transfer agreements, moving their contracts to Thompson Bakeries. The combined value exceeded $8 million, more than Brennan Bakery's entire annual revenue from the previous year. Diego called as we returned to the office. Mrs. B, it's chaos here. 17 workers have already quit. The rest are updating resumes. Tyler tried to run a safety meeting, but didn't know the basic rules. Someone called OSHA about the violations. They're coming Monday. Diego, Thompson Bakeries needs an experienced warehouse manager. Same crew, better pay, actual safety standards. Interested? His relief was audible. When do I start? By evening, Rebecca and I had hired 12 of Brennan Bakery's best employees, secured 4 major contracts, and established a transition timeline that would have the Martinez project back on schedule within a week. We celebrated with coffee in her office, watching the last government car leave the Brennan Bakery parking lot. You know what the beautiful part is, Rebecca said, studying the building through her telescope. You didn't destroy them. You just removed yourself from the equation and let them reveal who they really were. The fraud, the theft, the mistakes, it was always there. You were just the foundation holding it all together. My phone buzzed with text number 43 from Marcus. Victoria knows about the other women. She's threatening to go to the police about something. I don't know what you've started, but it's destroying everything. I deleted the message without responding. Tomorrow, the news would break publicly. Dana Chen's investigative report would air during the evening news. The bakery community would learn about the fraud, the safety violations, and the federal investigations. By week's end, Brennan Bakery would exist only as a cautionary tale about greed and betrayal. But tonight, I sat in my temporary office, looking out at the city I had helped build, one quality bakery at a time. Tomorrow, I would sign my employment contract with Thompson Bakeries. Tomorrow, I would begin rebuilding my professional life on my own terms. The phone rang once more. Call number 44. This time, I recognized the number as the motel's front desk. Marcus was probably trying to reach me through their phone since I wouldn't answer his calls. I let it ring, packed my things, and headed to my room at a different hotel across town. The new hotel room felt safer, 20 miles from Marcus and his desperate attempts to reach me through the motel's front desk. I had just finished organizing my new office supplies when Dana Chen's investigative report began playing on the mounted television. Her serious face filled the screen as she stood outside Brennan Bakery's headquarters, the building looking abandoned despite the middle of the business day. Tonight, we investigate the sudden collapse of one of the region's most trusted bakery, companies following federal raids and multiple arrests, Dana announced. Behind her, workers were removing the bronze letters spelling Brennan from the building's front, each letter dropping into a truck bed with a hollow clang. My phone vibrated with a text from Detective Kim. Turn to Channel 5 instead. You'll want to see this live. I switched channels to find breaking news coverage. Federal agents were escorting Marcus from the Highway 9 motel in handcuffs, his head down, his expensive suit replaced by the rumpled clothes he'd been wearing for days. The timestamp showed 6:47 p.m., exactly 3 weeks since my birthday ambush. The reporter's voice carried over the footage. Marcus Brennan, founder of Brennan Bakery, arrested on charges of tax evasion, fraud, and conspiracy. The scene shifted to Tyler's law firm downtown. Through the glass doors, agents could be seen carrying boxes while Tyler stood frozen at the reception desk, his colleagues backing away as if his legal troubles might be contagious. His arrest happened in full view of the senior partners who had once praised his ruthless efficiency. They led him out through the main entrance, making sure everyone saw the Golden Boy's public downfall. Emma's arrest was quieter, but no less complete. The gallery she had loved so much was wrapped in yellow tape. The windows she had spent weeks arranging now blocked by federal seizure notices. Agents found her sitting in the back office, surrounded by pieces she could no longer sell from a business that no longer existed. The reporter noted she went quietly, seemingly in shock. Victoria Chen's arrest provided the evening's dramatic climax. News helicopters circled her penthouse as agents attempted entry. She could be heard screaming about her rights, about conspiracy, about being set up. The footage showed her being dragged out, still in designer heels and a silk robe, her perfectly styled hair finally disheveled. The reporter mentioned additional charges being prepared related to 2 previous husbands' deaths. Kim called as the coverage continued. "Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? There are some things you need to know about what we found." The next morning, Kim's office felt different. The exhaustion in her eyes had been replaced by grim satisfaction. She spread files across her desk, each one labeled with names I recognized. The text messages we recovered are damning. "Victoria and Marcus discussed your removal extensively. The birthday ambush was supposed to destabilize you, make you vulnerable. Victoria had sourced digitalis from a contact in Mexico. The plan was to wait 3 months, then invite you for a reconciliation dinner." My stomach turned, but Kim continued. "Here's the ironic part. Victoria was simultaneously planning Marcus's death for approximately 8 months later. She'd already drafted documents transferring his assets to her name. Your husband thought he was the predator, but he was always her prey. She showed me a message from Victoria to an unknown number. M is easier to manage than expected. Once A is handled, we'll need 6 to 8 months before his heart attack. The bakery contracts alone worth $8 million. Your walking away disrupted everything," Kim explained. "Without you to blame for the bakery's collapse, Victoria couldn't position herself as Marcus's savior. When the investigation started, she panicked, moved too fast, made mistakes. Your silence saved your life and probably his too. I returned to Thompson Bakery's offices to find my permanent workspace ready. The corner office Rebecca had promised overlooked the entire bakery district. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched a foreclosure notice being posted on the house I had designed with such hope decades ago. The workers were gentle with it, as if understanding the weight of what they were posting. Throughout the day, former Brennan Bakery employees stopped by to thank me for hiring them at Thompson. Diego had brought his entire warehouse team. The Martinez project supervisor had convinced his best crews to make the switch. Even the receptionist Maria, who'd worked at Brennan for 15 years, now sat at Thompson's front desk. "You gave us dignity in this transition," Maria said, tears in her eyes. "You could have left us all to sink with them, but you didn't." The mail arrived at 3 p.m. with 3 letters forwarded from the hotel. Tyler's handwriting on the first envelope was shaky, the confident legal script replaced by desperate scrawls. His note was brief. "Mom, I need money for the commissary. They're threatening to take my bar license. I know I have no right to ask, but I don't know who else to turn to. The other inmates found out I'm a lawyer. It's not safe here." Emma's letter ran 3 pages, her artistic handwriting cramped and tear-stained. "I never learned anything real, Mom. You tried to teach me, but I thought I was above it all. I thought the money would always be there. I can't even make coffee properly. The halfway house has me washing dishes, and I don't even know how to do that right. I'm 26, and I'm starting from 0. Marcus's message came through his public defender, typed on official letterhead. "Mrs. Brennan, my client maintains that Victoria Chin manipulated the entire situation. He states he was forced into the divorce proceedings and was unaware of the criminal elements involved. He wishes to discuss the possibility of character testimony regarding his years as a law-abiding citizen." I created a new folder in my filing cabinet, labeling it "Birthday Gifts" in permanent marker. Each letter went inside, not out of cruelty, but as evidence of consequences. They had given me divorce papers for my 60th birthday. The universe had returned the favor with arrest warrants for theirs. That evening, I stood in my new office as the sun set over the city. The Brennan Bakery sign was completely gone now, leaving only ghost letters on the building's front where decades of weather had left their mark. Tomorrow, demolition would begin on the interior, stripping it bare for new tenants. Rebecca joined me at the window, handing me a cup of tea. Any regrets? I thought about the question, watching the last light fade from my former life. They taught me something valuable. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's stepping back and letting them destroy themselves while you build something better from their ashes. The local news played on the office television, showing footage of the 4 arrests again. The reporter mentioned that additional charges were being filed daily as more evidence surfaced. The Bakery Industry Board had permanently revoked Brennan Bakery's license. The IRS had seized all assets pending investigation. Victoria Chen was being investigated for 2 additional suspicious deaths in other states. Justice had arrived exactly 3 weeks after my birthday, wearing handcuffs and carrying federal warrants. 6 months had transformed everything except the sunrise. I stood at the window of my new apartment, watching the same sun paint the same sky, but everything it illuminated had changed. The coffee in my hand came from a machine I had chosen, brewed exactly how I preferred it without considering anyone else's taste. The mug, a handmade ceramic piece from a local artist, had no history, no memory, no ghost of better times haunting its rim. The apartment itself was smaller than the house, but every square foot belonged entirely to me. The furniture told no stories of compromise. The leather reading chair by the window had caught my eye at an estate sale, and I bought it without asking permission or checking joint accounts. The dining table seated 4 instead of 8, made from reclaimed wood by a craftsman who understood that imperfections could be beautiful. Above it hung photographs from the past 6 months. Diego and his family at a barbecue, Rebecca and me signing contracts, the Martinez project's completion ceremony where Kevin Martinez had publicly credited me with saving his development. My phone rang with Linda Hayes calling to confirm lunch plans. She had become a regular presence in my new life, our college friendship rekindled by crisis and strengthened by survival. We met weekly now. 2 women who had learned that starting over at 60 was not a consolation prize, but an unexpected gift. The partnership ceremony at Thompson Bakeries was scheduled for that afternoon. Rebecca had insisted on making it formal, inviting clients and industry leaders to witness the transition from employee to equal partner. The documents were already signed. I had learned to read every word now. But Rebecca understood the value of public recognition. The conference room, filled with people who had watched my public humiliation and private rebuilding. Kevin Martinez arrived early, bringing his wife, who pulled me aside to whisper her admiration. 3 other major clients attended, each one having transferred their contracts from Brennan to Thompson specifically because of my involvement. The bakery inspector who had flagged Tyler's safety violations shook my hand with genuine respect. Rebecca stood at the podium, her voice carrying across the room with practiced authority. 6 months ago, this company gained something invaluable, integrity in human form. Abigail Brennan rebuilt herself and our commercial division simultaneously, securing $8 million in new contracts while maintaining a perfect safety record. Today she becomes my equal partner in Thompson Bakeries, though she has always been my equal in every way that matters. The applause felt different from any recognition I had received before. This was earned entirely by my own efforts, not reflected glory from a husband's success or children's achievements. The champagne tasted sweeter because I had paid for it myself. That evening, a letter arrived at my office, Federal Bureau of Prisons official seal, Marcus's prisoner number in the corner. Inside, a visitation request form with a handwritten note. Please, one conversation before my transfer. There are things you need to know about the children. I held the paper for a long moment, feeling its weight. The man who had orchestrated my disposal was invoking our children to manipulate me one last time. But curiosity won. 3 days later, I sat in a federal detention center's visiting room, watching them bring in someone who looked like Marcus, aged 10 years. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on a frame that had lost 30 pounds. The confident posture had been replaced by a defensive hunch. When he sat across from me, separated by reinforced glass, his hands shook as he picked up the phone. "You look well," he said, his voice hollow through the receiver. I said nothing, waiting. "They're struggling, Tyler and Emma. The public defender says Tyler might get 18 months minimum security if he cooperates fully. Emma's in a halfway house learning job skills." He paused, studying my face for sympathy that wasn't there. "They're your children, Abigail. They stopped being my children when they laughed at my pain." His face crumpled slightly. "I need money for the commissary and a lawyer, a real one. Victoria's team is trying to pin everything on me, making me the mastermind when she was pulling the strings all along. You made your choices, Marcus. Every signature, every lie, every secret meeting with Victoria. Those were all choices. I loved you once," he said desperately. "Doesn't 32 years count for anything?" It counted for everything. That's why the betrayal was so complete. I stood to leave. "Abigail, please." His voice cracked through the phone. "I'm being transferred to federal prison in Arizona. 5 years minimum. I'll die in there." I hung up the phone and walked away, his muffled shouts following me through the reinforced glass. The desperation in his voice was the same tone I had carried in my chest that morning they ambushed me. Now it was his burden to bear. A week later, another unexpected letter arrived. This one from Jessica, Tyler's ex-wife, whom he had divorced 2 years ago, claiming she lacked ambition. She was struggling, she wrote, trying to restart her life after Tyler had hidden assets during their divorce. She had heard about my new position and wondered if Thompson Bakeries had any entry-level positions. I hired her as an administrative assistant. She arrived that first morning nervous but determined, grateful for the chance Tyler had never given her. Watching her slowly find her confidence over the following weeks felt like balance being restored to the universe. The news eventually stopped covering the Brennan Bakery scandal. Marcus got 7 years. Victoria got life without parole after they connected her to 4 murders across 3 states. Tyler received 2 years and permanent disbarment. Emma got probation and community service, though the halfway house reported she was finally learning basic life skills. I kept their letters in the folder marked birthday gifts, occasionally reading them to remind myself how far I had traveled from that morning of orchestrated cruelty. They had given me divorce papers and eviction notices, thinking they were ending my story. Instead, they had freed me to write a better one. Standing in my office as another day ended, I watched the city lights begin their nightly show. Somewhere in federal prisons across the country, the people who had tried to erase me were learning what erasure really felt like. Those 42 desperate calls had come too late because karma had already been set in motion the moment they chose cruelty over compassion. My phone sat silent on my desk, no longer a source of dread, but a tool for the business I was building on my own terms. Tomorrow would bring new contracts, new challenges, new opportunities to prove that the best revenge was not destruction, but reconstruction. I had built beauty from their ashes, and it was entirely mine. If this story of calculated revenge had you holding your breath, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Abigail calmly signed every document with a serene smile, knowing she had already set her plan in motion. What was your most satisfying moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more gripping stories like this. Subscribe to Pretty Tales and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.